اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري أنه قال عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قال: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة، ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيت به، وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه، إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أماه، إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جدة، السلام عليك يا من اختار الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة، إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء، أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومع بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وهامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم، أنا حرب لمن هاربهم، وسلم لمن سالمهم، وعدو لمن عاداهم، ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، واذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت السماء مبنيا ولا أرضا مدهيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم، قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخطه بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت السماء مبنيا ولا أرضا مدهيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيعا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم، قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء، فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبيه: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفصل عند الله. فقال النبي: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت له إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي الثانية: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله حماه، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة.
افضل الصلاة محمد وآل محمد. Inshallah, looking forward to reciting this all together as one. اللہ مجھے لشکرے مہدی سے ملا دے. اللہ مجھے لشکرے مہدی سے ملا دے. سب مل کے اللہ مجھے لشکرے مہدی سے ملا دے. اللہ مجھے لشکرے نظروں کو میری لائق دیدار بنا دے. پردہ جو پڑا ہے میری آنکھوں سے اٹھا دے. ہادی زماں کا رخ پرنور دکھا دے. اللہ مجھے لشکرے مہدی دے. اللہ مجھے شامل رہے لہجے میں صدا ہر فے صداقت. شمشیر تلے میں بھی کروں کوئی عبادت. اے کاش مجھے فاطمہ زہرا بھی دعا دے. اللہ مجھے لشکرے مہدی دے. اللہ مجھے لشکرے شبیر کے انصار میں شامل ہو میرا نام. جو حر کا ہو محشر میں وہی ہو میرا انجام. خاک قدم حضرت شبیر بنا دے. اللہ مجھے مہدی سے ملا دے. اللہ مجھے مہدی. افضل الصلاة محمد وآل محمد. دعائیں مانگ رہا ہوں خدا اثر دے دے. دعائیں مانگ رہا ہوں خدا اثر دے دے. دعائیں مانگ رہا ہوں خدا اثر دے دے. میں چاند زہرا کا دیکھوں مجھے نظر دے دے. سنا ہے نور سا چہرہ ہے میرے آقا کا. سنا ہے نور سا چہرہ ہے میرے آقا کا. نگاہ میری ہے بے نور नजर दे दे। है जुल्म जोर ज़माने में अल अजल मौला। है जुल्म जोर ज़माने में अल अजल मौला। अब इंतज़ार है मुश्किल खुदा जिगर दे दे। मैं चांद ज़हरा का देखूं हमें नजर दे दे। अफ़ज़लुस्सलात मुहम्मदिन व आले मुहम्मद व मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद सलवात।
من وآل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Sayyid Ahmed Kazwini, my brothers, sisters, my elders, Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of the managing committee and all of you, a very Kushali Mubarak, and may Allah inshallah do our du'as Kabul. We also like to welcome and thank Sayyid Ahmed for being with us tonight here and this evening. Thank you very much, and it's very nice to see you again. Before he comes, inshallah, also after the program today, we'll go down, we'll have salah, and after that we'll have dinner for tonight. So do not forget that after program we'll have salah in the gym and followed by the dinner there. Before Sayyid comes, let's recite I am Ujibu 5 times, remembering all those who are sick, all near and far, all those in need of dua, not forgetting our brothers and sisters, especially those who have gotten tragedies in Syria, Turkey, and everywhere else. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibu mustarra iza da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su. Amma yujibu mustarra iza da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su. Amma yujibu mustarra iza da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su. أما يجيب مضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. وكل أرواح المؤمنين وشفاء مريض سورة المباركة الفاتحة. حبيبك هدى ختم الأنبياء محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. A second louder salawat for the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salat was-salam. A third with the loudest of your voices to ask Allah Azza wa Jal to hasten the reappearance of the Mawla Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الهداة المهديين. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. One of the most widely discussed topics in our ahadith is the topic of the awaited Savior, Sahib al-Zaman al-Imam al-Mahdi ajjalallah farajahu al-Sharif. Some ulama have counted the ahadith that speak about the Mahdi, that speak about the ghaibah, the reappearance of the Mahdi, and what will happen after that. And they have counted more than 6,000 hadiths about this topic. All the way from Rasulullah. Rasulullah would speak about the Mahdi. He foretold about the Mahdi. Amir al-Mu'mineen foretold about the Mahdi. Al-Imam al-Hassan, all the way to Al-Imam al-Askari. Every Imam would speak about the awaited Savior, the Mahdi. And so many details have been given to us by the Ahlul Bayt about Sahib al-Zaman. For example, his looks, they have been described by the Ahlul Bayt. His age, they have been described by the Ahlul Bayt. The ghaibah period, what does the Imam do? Who does he meet? Does he have followers? This has all been mentioned by traditions of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Likewise, when the Imam reappears, how will he reappear? Where will he reappear? What are the words that the Imam will say when he reappears? This has all been documented and reported by the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And then the movement of the Imam when he reappears. Where will he go? What is the first station, the second station? What will happen? Who will fight against him? How will the Imam prevail? How will he govern? For how many years he will govern? What will happen under his kingdom? Many ahadiths that speak in detail about every single part of Imam al-Mahdi. The only thing that the Imams of Ahlul Bayt would not speak about, the only information that they left out is when will the reappearance happen. Everything else the Imam would give you so much. Look at the ahadith of Ahlul Bayt. For example, go back to the book of Al-Ghaibah by Shaykh al-Tusi. Go back to the book of Kamaluddin wa Tamam al-Ni'mah, Shaykh al-Saduq. Go to the book of Al-Ghaibah by Al-Nu'mani. You will see thousands of ahadith. The companions would ask about everything that has to do with the Mahdi. Who are the companions of the Mahdi? The Imams in some hadiths, they would even mention some of the names and in which city they come from. What are their qualities? What are their traits? But when anyone would ask the Imams, when will the Mahdi reappear? This is where the Imams would decline. They would say, this is from the knowledge that Allah Azza wa Jal has reserved only for himself. Nobody knows when the Mahdi will reappear. Only Allah Azza wa Jal. And in fact, they went further to say that if you find someone telling you that I know when the Mahdi will reappear, this person is a liar, is an imposter. No one can predict when the Mahdi will reappear. And that's why they banned us. كَذَبَ الْوَقَاتُونَ إِنَّا لَا نُوَقَّتْ. Do not put a time. Do not try to predict, give an exact date of when the Imam will come out. However, the Imams of Ahlul Bayt didn't just leave us in the dark. They gave us many signs of the reappearance. You could probably count hundreds of ahadith speaking about the signs of the reappearance. So the Imams didn't tell us when, which date, but the Imams, they indicated that there will be many signs. If you see those signs, know the Mahdi will be near. The Mahdi's reappearance will be close. Many events that will precede the Mahdi, we are told by the Imams, by Rasulullah about them. And like I said, there are so many traditions about the signs of the reappearance. So many details, events that will unfold, all spoken by Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Now, some scholars, some present day scholars believe that when you read those traditions speaking about the signs of the reappearance of the 12th Imam, and then you look at the current events that are unfolding in the world, some scholars, they tell you that we have certainty that the signs of reappearance are happening as we live. We live during a lucky time. during a special time. A time in which we are seeing the signs of the reappearance of the 12th Imam unfolding before our eyes. And that's why we heard certain statements by some maraja, by some scholars that said many people of this generation, they will see the Mahdi. If not them, then their children for sure. So either this generation or the next generation will be the generation in which the Imam will be reappearing. Why? Because the Imams told us if this and this and this and that happens, then no, the Mahdi will be very close. Now, this obviously is not accepted by all scholars. This is just an opinion. It's an opinion where some scholars, when they read the traditions and then they looked at what's happening, they tried to apply the traditions to today. But not all scholars agree. So that's why today, inshallah, I want to mention some of these signs that certain ulamas believe are very clear and indicative that the Mahdi will reappear. Because some of the signs, they're too general. There's going to be chaos, there's going to be violence. Every period that you live in, there's chaos and there's violence and there's immorality. But however, Now, if you were to read these ahadith 100 years ago, it would be very difficult. How can 2/3 of the world, or 5/7 of the world, die through violence? There's never been a war that's encompassed that much people. There's never been World War I, World War II. Many countries were not even part of it. Because the weapons that we used to have were not as powerful. No one wants to guess? Don't worry, we're just guessing how many there are. We don't want to use any. It's estimated that there's around 15,000 nuclear warheads today. Now, some of them are stronger than the others. And I was reading that it's estimated that only 100 of those warheads are enough to kill everybody. So to wipe out 2/3 of the world population, you need maybe, 60, 70 of those warheads of the 15,000 warheads, nuclear weapons. So it's very easy to imagine now how 2/3 of the world population can die. It can happen in one day. And as we see the events that unfolded before our eyes in Ukraine, the Russia-Ukraine war, these scholars said it became more clear and evident that we are closer to those signs. Now, unfortunately, we do not wish for that to happen. And nobody wants 2/3 of the world population to happen. But what we witnessed in Ukraine the last couple of months, we were this close to a nuclear war between Russia and the other countries. Because it was almost a world war. The entire West was fighting against Russia. And a few times Russia, if you remember, they threatened to use the nuclear weapons that they had, and the war still isn't over. So these scholars will say, look at what's happening there, and you can easily understand that the human population is very fragile. Just takes 70, 80 nuclear warheads, 2/3 will be gone. And with what's happening between Russia and Ukraine, we are on the verge of that happening. Wal-iyadhu billah. So this 3. Does that make sense? Are they adding up? So maybe if you read just one of these signs isolated, you can say, well, it's not. But it can all be a coincidence, a pandemic, and then we're almost heading into World War III, which can easily wipe out 2/3 of the world. And number 3, global fear in a way in which the world had never seen. Now, if that's enough, if that's not enough for you, I'll give you an even more explicit, detailed sign of the reappearance of the Imam. In one tradition, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, this hadith is found in the book of Al-Kafi. The Imam mentioned some of the signs of the reappearance. Listen to what the Imam says in this hadith. The Imam says, وَرَأَيْتَ بَيْتَ اللَّهِ قَدْ عُطِّلَ وَيُؤْمَرْ بِتَرْكِهِ. This is a striking, brothers and sisters, a striking sign. He says one of the signs of the reappearance of the Mehdi is that you will see Masjid al-Haram shut down. And people will not be allowed to go and see the Kaaba. Ask your parent and your grandparent, have you ever seen the Kaaba ever shut down? If everything shuts down, the house of Allah stays open. In fact, that's where people go to when they are afraid, when they have issues. Have you ever seen Masjid al-Haram shut down? Ask your father, ask your grandfather, ask the older generation. But we did see that during the pandemic, didn't we? For a couple of months, Masjid al-Haram shut down. No one was allowed to go and visit Masjid al-Haram was closed. They would not give any visas, flights stopped, and Masjid al-Haram, even the people living in Mecca, they were not allowed to go to Masjid al-Haram and pray. I remember it was March 2020, and I was supposed to go to Umrah. I had bought the ticket. I had also booked the hotel, and everything was ready, and everything began to unfold. The virus began to spread. They canceled the tickets, and they shut down everything. So if you want something more explicit than this, unfortunately, we are not paying attention to what's happening. This is number 4. Should I continue? Yes? Want even more detailed examples? Now, listen to this. Number 5, the traditions of Ahlul Bayt, like I said, many of them focus on a general theme that precedes the reappearance of the Imam, which is the spread of corruption and immorality. That in itself is a very general sign, because no matter which era you live in, you would see that immorality, corruption, injustice is dominant on earth, right? From the time of Adam, when his son Qabil killed Habil, till today, it's always been immorality, corruption, injustice. When was there ever justice on earth? But however, when you read these hadiths, the Imam give us some specific signs, specific ways in which immorality will spread, and that only happened in the last few years. Let me give an example. We know the topic of homosexuality, right? This has existed since forever. The tribe of Prophet Lut, this is 3,000-4,000 years ago, during the Prophet Ibrahim, this was something that was practiced. But what the Imams state, and what is striking and we see happening now, is that the Imams state what you will notice as a sign of the reappearance, before the Imam reappears, not that you will see homosexuality, no, even during the time of the Imams that existed. The Imam said you will see men marry men, women marry women. The Imams use the word marry. Before same-gender marriage was legalized, there was never a time or an era in which they actually got married. They would go to court, and the court would recognize them as married individuals. This only happened in the last decade. And the Imam uses his words carefully. He didn't say you'll see people who are gay, people who are homosexuals, because that's always there. He said that homosexuals, same gender, they will get married, and their marriage will be what? Recognized. Not just by government, but now you find even some religious institutions, they will recognize. They will do the nikah. Many Christian churches who are very liberal, right now, they provide marriage services for same genders. Man wants to marry a man, will come, will do the nikah. And even, unfortunately, there are even some Muslims who've opened some masajid, and they perform nikahs in the name of Islam. Nikah, marriage. This is unprecedented, because throughout history, it's been an act outside of marriage. Now it's being thrown and inserted within the sphere of marriage. When has this ever happened? The Imam predicted this, and this happened right before our eyes. That's number 1. Number 2, the Imam says in the hadith, and you will see men acting like women, and women acting like men. Now, once again, you may say this is too general, right? Well, this happens all the time. Look at the transgender movement of today. Not only are men turning into women, but no, they are being recognized as a woman. A woman is being recognized as a man, and a man is being recognized as a woman. When has this ever happened? Where the community, where the government, they accept someone changing their gender and they go with the new gender. Now, yes, there is the conservatives, even here in America, who are against it, but just wait. And if the movement is starting, they have so much power, and in many states, that's it. They are recognized. So these 2 points, brothers and sisters, of the spread of immorality being normalized, is unprecedented. They will tell you this is also another sign that we are living in the era of the reappearance of the Imam, meaning it's very close. Now, if all of that is not enough, number 6 is the most striking out of all the ones I mentioned. If you still aren't convinced by now, then wait until you hear number 6. Number 6, the traditions tell us that amongst the signs of the reappearance is earthquakes. There's a few hadiths from the Imams that the year or the era, say year, 2 years, before the reappearance of the Imam will witness earthquakes. And there is a specific hadith that a Shaykh al-Tusi narrates from Rasulullah, all the way back to Rasulullah, where he says, Abshiru bil Mehdi. The Mehdi will reappear. And then he said, يخرج على حين اختلاف من الناس وزلزال شديد. The Mahdi will appear after there is conflict between people and a major earthquake, a very strong earthquake. Now, once again, you may say, this is okay, makes sense, but it's still general. There's been so many earthquakes. Come to the hadith of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen in one hadith speaks about the signs of the reappearance. What does he say? He says, one of the signs of the reappearance of the Mahdi, he says, رَجْفَةٌ تَكُونُ بِالشَّامِ. That Sham, the area of Sham, the Levant, it will witness an earthquake. And then the Imam gives more information. He says, that earthquake will leave 100,000 people dead. Now, what happened last month? Anyone following the news? The earthquake that happened in Turkey, right? And Syria. Very powerful, 7.8 on the Richter scale. How many people died? As of today, it's almost reached 60,000 and counting. And it could easily reach close to 100,000. Now, when the Imam says 100,000, obviously he's rounding. It's not exactly 100,000. So if anywhere 80, 90,000, and this is what the Imam was speaking about. And the Imam said Sham. Now remember, Sham during the time of the Imams is not Sham of today. Sham of today is Damascus. Sham during the time of the Imams was a huge region. Parts of Turkey, southern Turkey was Sham. In fact, the epicenter of the earthquake happened in the Sham of the time of Imam Ali. For example, Aleppo in Syria, Halab, it was considered from the greater Sham. So an earthquake, a large earthquake happening in Sham, 100,000 people dying. And then the Imam said, if the earthquake happens, then wait after that, the son of the one who ate the liver. Ibn Akilatul Akbad. Who's Akilatul Akbad? We also hear this in Ziyarat Ashura. Who's Akilatul Akbad? Who's the one that ate the liver? Hind, right? She ate the liver. She chewed the liver of Hamza, Sayyid al-Shuhada. Amir al-Mu'mineen says that after the earthquake, he doesn't tell us when. After, it could be months, it could be a year or two, but not too far away. He says, after that, the son of Hind will rise and he will control Damascus. After that, the Imam said the Mahdi will reappear. Now, who's the Imam speaking about, the son of Hind? The Imam is speaking about the Sufyani. The Sufyani, why do you think he's called the Sufyani? That's not his name. Sufyani, meaning he is attributed to Sufyan. Who's Abu Sufyan, right? The husband of Hind. But his name is not the Sufyani. In fact, some traditions tell us his name is Uthman. The name, the actual name of the Sufyani is Uthman. And he is the individual that will rise before the Imam and he will cause destruction in the Middle East and kill. He will hunt to kill any Shia of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu, similar to ISIS. Same mentality when we saw what happened what ISIS did and what we read in the traditions, subhanallah, the same thing. He will become very powerful. He will control many parts of the greater Sham. And he is from the descendants of Abu Sufyan and Hind. So the Imam says, after the earthquake, wait for the Sufyani to appear. After the Sufyani appears, then an Imam al-Mahdi will appear. So these signs, brothers and sisters, are very clear. It doesn't make sense to say that this is all a coincidence. A huge pandemic, global fear. We're on the verge of World War III, and easily 2/3 of the world population can die. The specific way in which immorality has spread based on what the Imams have said. The earthquake that we witnessed, Masjid al-Haram, closing. When you put all this together, what's the conclusion? The conclusion they state is that the Mahdi will appear, inshallah, in our generation. Now, is this a correct assessment? Yes or no? Now, once again, only Allah knows. Because remember, we're not allowed to say definitely that the Imam. We can say, inshallah, hopefully, maybe within the next couple of years, but to say definitely yes, we're not allowed to do that. The Imams explicitly forbade us from doing that. But however, many of these points do make sense because it's true that the global fear and the pandemic that happened was unprecedented, meaning there was never global fear and a plague or an infectious disease that spread in the entire world like COVID-19. So this was the first of its kind. But some of the other signs, no, they did happen before. For example, Masjid al-Haram closing. This happened many times in history. I was reading an article that was saying throughout history, Masjid al-Haram was shut down more than 40 times. More than 40 times. Because we're talking about what? 1,300 years. The last 1,200 years. And in fact, there were some times where Hajj was completely canceled. Just like what happened during the year of COVID. There was no Hajj, remember? No one was allowed to go to Hajj. This happened a few times before. In 1814, Hajj was canceled because of a contagious virus. So similar to what happened during COVID. So that in itself is not very indicative. But however, all these things happening together, we cannot completely deny that these may be signs. That the Imam may be close, that the Imam may be near. But however, the only way for us to know for sure is if the definite signs of the reappearance happen. What do I mean? You see, when the Imams would speak about the signs of the reappearance, they would classify, divide the signs into two categories. There are definite signs and there are indefinite signs. The Imams would say some of the signs are mahtum. Mahtum means will happen 100%. And then there are other signs in which Allah has written them, but Allah may change them. Allah Azza wa Jal may change the course of those events. Most of the signs the Ahlul Bayt spoke about are from the indefinite, meaning they may happen, they may not happen. They were written by Allah when the Imam spoke about it, but however, Allah may change the plan. So the companions would ask the Imams, then wait a minute. So all the signs are indefinite, the Imam could just pop out of nowhere? The Imams would say no. There are 5 definite signs. These have to happen in order for the Imam to reappear. And unfortunately, none of these definite signs have happened yet. So yes, these 6 signs, very clear, but they're from the indefinite. Meaning, it's not necessarily that they will happen. So we cannot conclude right away that yes, these are the signs. Unless we see the 5 definite signs. What are the 5 definite signs? Mentioned by more than one Imam. Number 1, the Sufyani. The Sufyani, the Imams would say, min al-mahtum. Someone from the descendants of Abu Sufyan will rise, and that individual will be the leader of the forces of evil, and he will fight against the Mahdi. when the Mahdi reappears. So this is number one. Number two, the heavenly cry of Jibreel. There will be a heavenly cry, meaning a loud sound that everyone will hear. Jibreel will speak and every person on earth will hear him. What will he say? He will say, the Mahdi has appeared. Everyone or follow the Mahdi. No matter where you are on earth, you will hear the cry of Jibreel. And the traditions even tell us that that will happen during the month of Ramadan. So this hasn't happened. Number three, al-khasfu bil-bayda. The Imams tell us another definite sign. Now, how do we know if this is Sufyani or not? Because many people, they say, well, if his name is not Sufyani, it's the ideology of Bani Umayyah, ISIS, right? ISIS could also be Sufyani. Because Sufyani, the Imams say, they follow the ideology of Bani Umayyah, Abu Sufyan. This is exactly what ISIS was. But ISIS, they ruled and then they lost power and the Imam never appeared. So the Imams, they mention a second definitive sign in order for you to find out if that's the real Sufyani the Imams were talking about. How? The third definite sign is that something will happen to the troops of Sufyani. The Imams say that 12,000 of his soldiers, they will be moving from Mecca to Medina or vice versa. Either from Mecca to Medina or Medina to Mecca. All of a sudden, the earth will swallow them. Except two of them. These two will be spared. So they go and they spread the news that they saw with their own eyes. The Imams used to say, if you hear about the earth swallowing 12,000 of the enemies, know that this is a definite sign that the Mahdi will reappear very, very soon. Has that happened? No. Number four, the fourth definitive sign is what? قتل النفس الزكية. And Imam al-Mahdi will send an ambassador. He will send a messenger to Mecca to tell the people before he appears that the Mahdi will rise. What will happen to that ambassador? He will be taken by the Kaaba and he will be slaughtered. His blood will be shed in Masjid al-Haram. And that's why he's called Nafs al-Zakiyah. Nafs al-Zakiyah means the pure soul because he's innocently killed. And the traditions tell us he's a Sayyid, meaning his lineage goes back to Rasulullah. Has that happened? I don't think so. I didn't hear about anyone who went from the lineage of the Prophet to Mecca, inviting people to believe in the Imam, and then he was killed by the Kaaba. And finally, Al-Yamani. Al-Yamani is the opposite of Sufyani. Al-Yamani, the Imams tell us, is someone who rises from Yemen. His lineage goes back to Zayd, the son of Imam Zainul Abidin, and he will begin to mobilize people for Imam al-Mahdi. He will begin to mobilize people to fight against the Sufyani. The Imams would say, if you hear about the Yamani, then know that the reappearance of the Imam is very close. Now, unfortunately, none of these signs have happened. The 5 definite signs. So, the Imams did say that those other indefinite signs, they will come before the definite. So, for example, Imam Ali said in that hadith that there will be a huge earthquake in Sham, which could be applied to the earthquake that happened last month, correct? But he said after that, the Sufyani will rise. Now we just have to wait and see. If the Sufyani rises, he shows up from now until a year, 2 years, then we know that this earthquake was the exact earthquake that Amir al-Mu'mineen was speaking about. Or else, if none of the definitive signs happen, then it's all speculation. And in fact, there's a hadith in which the Imam says that the Sufyani his movement will begin during the month of Rajab. And then during Ramadan, so 2 months after, right? Rajab, Sha'ban, Ramadan. During Ramadan, Imam al-Mahdi will appear, but he will not rise. Because there is a 6-month time difference between the day the Imam appears and the day he rises. Because the first 6 months, he's what? He's mobilizing people, preparing to fight. So in Ramadan, the Imam will appear, the Imams would say. And then he will wait until when? When does he declare that he is starting his revolution? On the 10th day of Muharram, the day of Ashura. So 6 months after Ramadan. 6 months or 4 months? 4 months after Ramadan. On the day of Ashura, the 12th Imam will go to the Kaaba, Masjid al-Haram. He will stand by the Kaaba and he will declare that he will start a revolution to eradicate injustice and to bring justice to the entire world. The hadith says that 313 will be his generals, and under them 10,000 individuals. And by the way, 313 male. And the hadith tell us that there will be 50 females also. 313 male, 50 females. So that makes the total 363. These are the generals under the Imam's army. And 10,000, they will be on the soldiers. This is when the Imam launches. He launches his movement. But the number begins to increase and increase because the people will see miracles from Imam Mehdi. People will see that the Imam's message is a message of justice, a message of peace, a message of ending all forms of tyranny and injustice. So most of the world will join the Imam. Only the evil doers, people who are in power, who have something to lose, they are the ones that will turn their backs against the Imam and they will fight against the Imam. So once again, if we did see the Sufyani come out, this is when we can say for sure that the Mahdi will rise. And there is a letter in which the Imam wrote himself to his fourth ambassador, Ali ibn Muhammad al-Samari. 6 days before he died, the Imam had 4 ambassadors during the small ghaiba. So the last of the ambassadors was Ali ibn Muhammad al-Samari. The 12th Imam wrote him a letter. He told him, "Oh, Ali ibn Muhammad al-Samari, you will die in 6 days. So from now until 6 days, make sure you are ready for death." And then he said, after you, there will be no more ambassadors. The large ghaiba will begin. These two terminologies, the small ghaiba, large ghaiba, they were spoken about by the Imams. They themselves placed these terminologies. Even Imam al-Sadiq, we have hadith from Imam al-Sadiq where he says the Mahdi will have 2 ghaibas, a small ghaiba and a major ghaiba. So the 12th Imam tells his ambassador, Ali ibn Muhammad al-Samad, you will die in 6 months, and after that, the major ghaiba, al-ghaiba al-kubra, will begin, and no one will see me after that. And then the Imam said this, whoever claims that they saw me, that person is an imposter. Some ulama, they view this hadith, they interpret it in a different way. Whoever claims that I appeared, not they saw me, that person is an imposter until the Sufyani appears. When the Sufyani appears, then you will see the Mahdi. Then you will see people saying, you know what, I saw the Mahdi. We can't say they're imposters anymore. If now someone comes and says, I saw the Mahdi, I speak to the Mahdi, right away we tell him you're an imposter. Because the Imam says, before the Sufyani, no one can see the Imam. And if someone can see him, they won't speak about it. But after the Sufyani, this is when the Imam will be seen by many people. Why? Because the Imam will appear, but he will not rise until we said Ashura. So once again, could we be living in the era right before the reappearance? And are all these events signs of the reappearance of the 12th Imam? They could be. We just have to wait and see. If the Sufyani appears, if we hear the heavenly cry, if we see Nafs al-Zakiyya being killed, if the Yamani rises, then we will be sure that the Mahdi will rise right away. Or else, all of those indefinite signs, they are inconclusive because they can happen again and again and again. Even though, yes, the probability is less, but another pandemic can happen, another huge earthquake, all of that can happen once again. And you know, subhanAllah, there were many scholars that lived throughout history that used to think that they lived in the time of the reappearance of the Imam. In fact, there's one of our ulama, Sayyid ibn Tawus, lived 800-900 years ago. He wrote in one of his books that I am sure that the Mahdi will reappear in my time. Why? Because of the current events that I see. It's all in the ahadith. So he saw earthquakes, he saw a plague, he saw this, he saw that 800 years ago. And there's a funny story. It's funny, and it's also, it also makes one rethink before rushing to a conclusion. Is that 100 years ago, 150 years ago, there was a group of the Shia of Ahlul Bayt that went from Iraq, from Najaf, they went to do ziyarah of a Sayyidah Zainab in Sham. So on the way, they slept in a village when they arrived close to Sham. No hotels, so you stay at someone's house. They noticed they stayed in the house of a man by the name of Ambasa. Non-Shia, but he gave them shelter. They noticed he has a young son. They asked him, "What's the name of your young son?" He said, "My son's name is Uthman." Now, when you go back to the hadith, what's the name of the Sufyani? Uthman, son of Ambasa. And this kid is Uthman, son of Ambasa. So they're like, uh-oh, this is a Sufyani. In addition, some traditions state that the Sufyani is A'war. A'war means he has one eye. Either means he has only one eye, it's like a birth defect, or it means that only one eye works. So the other one is blind. And that child was A'war. Either he had one eye or only one of them was not working. So these individuals, they started to get scared. This is the Sufyani. Oh my God, he's probably 2-3 years old now. In 20-30 years, he's going to start his movement. So they went back to the city of Najaf. They visited one of the scholars by the name of Al-Shaykh Al-Mamaqani. His great-grandchildren live in Najaf and they're scholars now. They went to him and they wanted to verify. They told him, "Maulana, we saw this on the way to Sham. We stayed in a house. The father was Ambasa. The son was Uthman. He had only one eye. What does this mean?" They say as soon as they told him this, he quickly went into sujood. Right away. Without saying anything, he went into sujood. They asked him, "Why did you do sujood?" He said, "I did sujood thanking Allah Azza wa Jal that the Sufyani will appear in a couple of years." So even this scholar, he believed that he lived in the time of the reappearance. 100 years has passed since that scholar has died. The Imam never reappeared. Why? Because the definite signs did not happen. If we do not see the definite signs, then it's all speculation, brothers and sisters. So we have to be very careful. So what do we do then? So many signs, they're confusing. We don't know which ones the Imam meant. I'll give you the formula. Al-Imam al-Sadiq gives us the formula and tells us how we should deal and how we should basically read these ahadith and what we should do in the time of ghaibah. The Imam says in one hadith, "A'rif imamak." All you have to know is one thing. Know your Imam. Have ma'rifah of the 12th Imam. Why? He says, فَإِنَّكَ إِذَا عَرَفْتَ إِمَامَكَ لَمْ يَضُرَّكَ تَقَدَّمَ هَذَا الْأَمْرَ أَوْ تَأَخَّرَ. He says, because if you know your Imam and you have ma'rifah in him, it doesn't matter when he will reappear. Whether he reappears tomorrow or in 1,000 years, what difference will it make for you? The Imam then says, someone might say, "What do you mean there's no difference? I want to be from the companions of the Imam." The Imam says, because whoever knows his Imam has ma'rifah and they die before the reappearance of the Imam, Allah will write you amongst the companions of the Imam. Why? Because your niyyah, your intention is that if the Imam comes out, I will support him. And that's why you remember Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari when he went to visit Abu Abdullah's grave during the Arba'een. He spoke to the graves of the Shuhada. What did he tell them? He told them, "I bear witness that I am amongst you." His servant Atiyah, he objected. He told them, "What do you mean? These people were killed. You did nothing and you say I was amongst them?" He said, "Yes, because I heard Rasulullah say, whoever loves the act of a group, whoever's intention is with a group and with what they did, Allah Azza wa Jal will resurrect you with them and write you amongst them. And my niyyah is with the companions of Hussein. My niyyah was that if I was able to assist Hussein, I would have assisted him, but I was not able. So if our intention is truly that when the Imam reappears, we will join him, that's all you need. Khalas. Don't have to worry about it. Because Allah will write you amongst the companions of the 12th Imam, even if you don't make it. So the Imam says, all you should be concerned about is to know the Imam. What does know the Imam mean? Is it enough that I just know his name is Imam al-Mahdi? No. 6,000 hadiths, read some of them. What are our duties in the ghaibah? The Imam sent, you know how many letters to his Shia in the small ghaibah? Hundreds of letters. How many of them have we read? In many of these letters, he gives us advice. He tells us what to do. He tells us how to conduct ourselves. Many of us, we have no clue. We don't know anything about that. Why is the Imam in a state of ghaibah? How do I benefit from the Imam if he's in the state of ghaibah? How is he my Imam if I can't see him? This is ma'rifah. Is when you read and educate yourself about the 12th Imam. This is much better than anything else that you can do. Have a relationship with the Imam. Make a solid relationship. Don't treat the Imam as just a concept in your mind. The Imam should be a part of our lives every day. And you know what's one of the best ways to keep a good relationship with the Imam, to keep him alive in our lives? Read Dua al-Ahd every day. How beautiful is Dua al-Ahd? Imam al-Sadiq narrates, I'm almost done, inshallah. Imam al-Sadiq said that whoever reads Dua al-Ahd according to the hadith, 40 days, just read it for 40 days, Allah Azza wa Jal will make you amongst the companions of the Imam. And if you die before that, Allah will resurrect you from your grave so that you fight with the Imam. You've heard of the raj'ah, right? The return. Allah will allow you to come back and fight with the Imam, even if it happens 1,000 years from now. So read Dua al-Ahd every day. It creates a beautiful relationship between you and between Sahib al-Zaman. Why? Because Dua al-Ahd, first of all, we begin by glorifying Allah. Allahumma Rabb al-Kursi al-Raf. Allahumma Rabb al-Nur al-Azim wal-Kursi al-Rafi' wal-Bahr al-Masjoor wa munzil al-Tawrat wal-Injil. First of all, it's a dua that you supplicate to Allah. And then, Allahumma balligh mawlai al-Imam al-Hadi al-Mahdi. You ask Allah to send His mercy and blessings and salawat upon the 12th Imam and his fathers. And then the most beautiful part is the third part, where you pay your allegiance to the Imam every single day. Every single day, brothers and sisters, we should be paying our allegiance to Sahib al-Zaman. Do you know why? Because once you pay your allegiance, the Imam will be on your mind the whole day. You will try your best to please the Imam. You will try your best to be just within your family, within your circle of friends and family members. So if the Imam is a part of your life, the values that the Imam stands for will always be on your mind. That's why our kids, when they go to school, you know, in elementary school, every day when school starts, they have to stand up and pay their allegiance to the flag. They make them even memorize it. I'm sure all the young ones memorize that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, blah, 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 blah. Right? Why? Why every day? They tell you because by doing this, we are reminding ourselves of the values that the US stands for. Correct? Freedom and whatever it stands for. Freedom, liberty, and so on and so forth. So when you pledge your allegiance to Sahib al-Zaman, this is a beautiful way that you remind yourself of the values that the Imam stands for and the values that he will try and succeed in implementing when he appears. In Dua al-Ahd, there's a beautiful part where we see that the Imam al-Sadiq says that in this part, you pay your allegiance to the 12th Imam. And I'll read you the part real quick. It's very beautiful. The Imam says, this is what you say. You say, Allahumma inni ujaddidu lahu fi sabihati يومي هذا وما عشت من أيامي عهدا وعقدا وبيعة بيعة allegiance له في عنقي لا أحول عنها ولا أزول أبدا. Ya Allah, today I renew my bay'ah, my allegiance to Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman. I am still on the same path. I am still committed to my devotion to Sahib al-Zaman. And then you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make you amongst his companions and supporters. And then the most beautiful part, Allahumma an hala bayni wa baynahu al-maut. Ya Allah, if death comes between me and Sahib al-Zaman, I ask you, Ya Allah, akhrijni min qabri. Take me out, resurrect me from my grave whenever he reappears. Mu'taziran kafani shahiran sayfi. With my kafan and sword. That's all I need to fight with the Imam. شاهرا سيفي مجردا قناتي منبيا دعوة الداعي في الحاضر والبادي. So that I can be one of the companions of Sahib al-Zaman. In this way, brothers and sisters, if you keep the Imam as a part of your life, educate yourself about the Imam, recite Dua al-Ahd every day, this is the best thing that you can do. And by doing that, you can ensure that whether the Imam appears tomorrow or 1,000 years from now, Allah Azza wa Jal will write you amongst his companions. And not just that, Allah will even resurrect you, raise you from the dead, so that you can be one of the companions and the supporters of Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to hasten the reappearance of our Mawla Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give us the tawfiq and the ability that we can, insha'Allah, build that relationship and ma'rifah with the 12th Imam. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from the loyal companions, the loyal supporters of Sahibul Asri wa Zaman. And let us end, brothers and sisters, let us all rise and recite Dua al-Faraj. For in a letter, the 12th Imam, he wrote to Shaykh al-Mufid, he said, أكثر الدعاء بتعجيل الفرج. Always ask Allah to hasten my reappearance. Because Allah Azza wa Jal, he may, whenever he wrote that the Imam will reappear, Allah can change it. So if the Imam was destined to reappear 2,500, our du'as can make it sooner. This is what the Imam says in that hadith to Shaykh al-Mufid, to the letter. He says, فَإِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ فَرَجَكُمْ. So that's why constantly do dua that Allah Azza wa Jal hastens the reappearance. And there is no dua more beautiful and very simple than dua al-faraj. So everyone together, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. And let us end by reciting Surah Al-Fatiha for all the mu'mineen and mu'minat that have departed us, after a loud salawat for Muhammad and Al Muhammad.
Salawat. मुसल्ले पे मैंने अली का कसीदा यूं ही गुनगुनाया सवेरे सवेरे मुसल्ले पे मैंने अली का कसीदा यूं ही गुनगुनाया सवेरे सवेरे खुदा की कसम फिर इबादत का मुझको बड़ा लुत्फ आया सवेरे सवेरे निकल कर अंधेरों के नरगे से हुर जब करे शह पे आया सवेरे सवेरे
تو زہرا کے بیٹے نے ایک پل میں اس کا مقدر جگایا. سویرے سویرے مصلی پہ میں نے علی کا قصیدہ یوں ہی گنگنایا. سویرے سویرے فرشتوں نے جس وقت مدح و ثنا کی، فضاؤں میں گونجی صدا یا علی کی. پرندوں نے بھی اپنی بولی میں نعرہ علی کا لگایا. سویرے سویرے مصلی پہ میں نے علی کا قصیدہ یوں ہی گنگنایا. سویرے سویرے ہے زہرا کی مرضی مشیت خدا کی، لبوں سے ہوا تھا ابھی حکم جاری. لباس جنا لے کے رضوان جنت نے در کھٹکھٹایا. سویرے سویرے مصلی پہ میں نے علی کا قصیدہ یوں ہی گنگنایا. سویرے سویرے مہک باغ سماعت کی ہر سمت پھیلی، لگا یوں کہ آمد ہوئی سیدہ کی. جو ہی میں نے گھر میں حدیث کسا کے دیے کو جلایا. سویرے سویرے مصلی پہ میں نے علی کا قصیدہ یوں ہی گنگنایا. سویرے سویرے میں داد علی پڑھ کے سویا تھا شب کو، پسند اس قدر آئی یہ بات رب کو. سہیل ایک فرشتہ شفاعت کا میری سند لے کے آیا. سویرے سویرے مصلی چنی گنگنایا. سویرے سویرے مصلی پہ میں نے علی کا قصیدہ یوں ہی گنگنایا. سویرے سویرے صلوات.
السلام محمد وآل محمد. نبی کا حسن علی کا جلال قائم ہے. نبی کا حسن علی کا جلال قائم ہے. جہاں میں سورہ کوثر کی آل قائم ہے. نہ ہو امام، نہ ہو امام تو پھر وارث کتاب ہے کون. نہ ہو امام تو پھر وارث کتاب ہے کون. جواب لاؤ ہمارا سوال قائم ہے. یا علی یا علی. رکیں گے اشک عزا کیا ظہور سے پہلے. چراغ کیسے بجھا دوں کہ رات باقی ہے. ہلال نو حسن اصغری کا چمکے گا. ہماری راتوں میں ایک چاند رات باقی ہے. باز بلند صلوات. Considering namaz time is very close, just a short munajat, please. Participate with me. یا امام زمانہ کرم کیجئے، یا امام زمانہ کرم کیجئے، یا امام کرم کیجئے، نور آنکھوں کا میری بڑھا دیجئے، یا امام زمانہ کرم کیجئے، یا امام غیر کے در پہ کیوں جائیں فریاد کو، آپ سر پر سلامت ہے امداد کو، ہم غریبوں کی حاجت رواں یہ، یا امام میں زمانہ کرم کیجئے، یا جس گھڑی آپ کی دید ہو جائے گی، در حقیقت میری عید ہو جائے گی، زندگی میں وہ دن بھی دکھا دیجئے، یا امام زمانہ کرم کیجئے، یا امام ہے عریضے میں لکھے ہے سب نے سلام، ساتھ در دو علم کے ہے اپنے پیام، پھیلے دامن ہے حاجت رواں کیجئے، یا امام زمانہ کرم کیجئے، یا نا کرم الہی ببیمار دشت بلا، جو بیمار ہو جلد پائے شفا، الہی برائے امام زمان ہمیں حول محشر سے دے تو امان، قیامت کو معشور رہو علی اٹھے قبر سے کہتے ہم یا علی، ہے 5 و 9 مل احمد و علی حسن، شبیر سے لے امام زمان، شبیر سے لے امام زمان، ہر ایک پہ صدا صلوات پڑھو، صلوات صلوات کے اس پہ نثائے گوہر ہے بلند بات ہوئے سب، صلوات و سلام یا امام زمان فرماؤ ظہور یا زمان سلام. وجہ زیارات. السلام علیک یا رسول اللہ، السلام علیک یا امیر المؤمنین، السلام علیک یا فاطمة الزہراء سیدتی نساء العالمین، السلام علیک یا حسن المجتبی، السلام علیک یا حسین شہید بارض کربلا، السلام علیک یا تسعۃ المعصومین من ذریت علی ابن الحسین ومحمد ابن علی وجعفر ابن محمد وموسى ابن جعفر وعلي ابن موسى ومحمد ابن علي وعلي ابن محمد والحسن ابن علي. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان سيدي الأمان الأمان من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان، السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ.